Sean O'Malley is a real star, and not just a real star with kids, but with adults. I didn't get it, but I see it now. I was in Boston to see the effect that he has on these people. I don't like it, but I see it and I get it now. Guys, let's talk about it right now. So first of all, straight away, I need to apologize to you guys because I have been away for a couple of days. I am actually still in the US of A in Boston, but we went from my girlfriend's parents' house into the city to actually go watch the UFC on Saturday night. And then I did a little bit of an East Coast tour and we traveled around to New York and Atlantic City. And now I'm back at my girlfriend's parents' house and we'll be here for a few more days and then flying back to Australia and back to our regularly scheduled programming. But the point of this video, what I wanted to talk to you guys about was Sean O'Malley. He's our champion now. Number one, unbelievable. Like, I don't even need to ask, did you guys see this coming? I know you didn't see this coming. Nobody saw this coming. But Sean O'Malley's the champion now. I don't like Sean O'Malley as a person, and I didn't really care about him being in the UFC. He was just some kid's favorite fighter to me. He's just some TikTok trend, Fortnite. It's that, like, the colors are pink and blue. I get it. I know what you are. I don't care. I'm moving on. Didn't hate him. Don't hate him. Just don't care. You're not the kind of guy. The sort of relationship that you and your wife have where you let other men do that to your wife, not for me. And you know what? That's fine. Do your thing, mate. Do your thing. But I'm not a fan of you. And that's it. Life goes on. I thought you were going to lose to Aljo. And you just sort of peter out into irrelevancy. Man, I was wrong. I was wrong. Wrong on, he is not just a star with the kids. He is not just a star that the UFC is telling you he is a star. And he has everything that it takes to be a champion because holy hell, he is a champion now. Like, he won that title fair and square. Same as Conor McGregor won his title. Same as Israel Adesanya beat Robert Whittaker. Like, same as Israel Adesanya knocked out Alex. Like, he is a champ with star power, like adult star power, which is even weirder. So the first thing that I want to cover, guys, is how wrong I was about his fans. I assumed that he was just like a Gen Z wave of fans. Our sport has got a huge amount of new fans in the last 2 years, and I thought he was just sort of like that bandwagon high school kid, like 13 to 18-year-olds were the fans of Sean O'Malley, the sort of kids that drink prime drinks. They're the people that we were selling him to. Now, I went into Boston, and the day of the fight, me and my girlfriend were walking around the city, and there are grown-ass men. There are adults, all wearing the Suga Show merchandise. Like, you could tell there's a UFC. I've never been to a UFC event in a city. Like, they've come to Melbourne, but I've always just watched it on Fight Pass from the local pubs in the suburbs. So I've never experienced, like, being in a city as a tourist as I see the UFC take effect on that city. And it's awesome. Like, when Dana talks about how the city gets a real boost from the UFC being there, that is 100% true. And it wasn't until we actually sat down at the bar and started getting into the commercials of the fights on ESPN that you could even tell that Sean O'Malley was fighting someone. Like, there were posters of Sean O'Malley in the city. Pubs were saying UFC watch party here tonight. And the only face on the poster was Sean O'Malley. Grown-ass men were wearing Sean O'Malley merchandise. And as we started to get into the card, the amount of fans that were there for Sean O'Malley. Firstly, I don't want to misrepresent anyone and think that I was actually in the Garden watching the fight. I was at a pub across the road from the Garden watching the fights at a sports bar. Great pub, awesome bar. Place called The Greatest Bar. 2 stories, screens everywhere, sold out night. People, like, there wasn't any standing room in the place, and that whole place was going for Sean O'Malley. Every time his face popped up on the screen, he got a cheer. Every time Aljo's face popped up on the screen, he got a boo. There were people in there wearing Sean O'Malley merchandise. And as I was looking around at the crowd, that's when it really started to dawn on me. And I was shocked to see, like, the amount of reach that he has. What I really wanted to talk about here is that we've got people like Israel Adesanya, where the UFC tells us they're a champion, but you go on their social media posts and it's just all hate. Like, so many people hate Izzy. And of course, like, he's a superstar, so there's going to be people that are going to hate him and there's going to be people that are going to love him. But he seems like a manufactured superstar. Like the UFC need him to be a big deal. Very similar with Jon Jones. Like Jon Jones is known for selling out shows where nobody is there, and his pay-per-view sales are not good, but we're told that he's a big star. And he's only really been a big star now that he's actually come out of hiding and started to fight in featherweight. Before that, he was considered just a boring fighter. He wasn't good for pay-per-view sales. Israel Adesanya, for some reason, gets super stacked cards, and we're told that he's a big star. Even though, again, you go to his social media posts, they're not really filled with love. Now, Sean O'Malley pulls big numbers on his own social media without the push from the UFC. And there are people there that are cheering for him, and they're not just kids. It's a demographic of people that actually have money to spend, and the UFC are going to be loving this. I am blown away by it. Personally, if you have to be the fan of someone and you actually need to literally put on the clown wig like you're a living meme, okay, cool guys, fine. But it's good for the UFC. And another thing that has come out of this with Sean O'Malley being our champion is because the champ is the one that has the eyes on him and the champ is the one that's going to be making these pay-per-view numbers, it has given life to this entire division. All of bantamweight is now fighting for Sean O'Malley's attention. It is insane to see the difference of what happens when someone like Leon Edward wins a championship and it's just a little bit quiet, or my favorite fighter, Volkanovski, he's still the champion, but he barely gets called out. Like, his division is like going very quiet, almost because he's beaten too many people in it, but still there isn't this active, everyday fight call out. Who's going to be the next person to fight Sean O'Malley? People are drawing these comparisons between Sean O'Malley and Conor McGregor, and it feels like that in so many ways. Even the way the fighters are acting. The fighters are the ones that are constantly calling for Sean O'Malley like they know that it's red panty night. And that is fun. That gives us a lot of action on Twitter. It gives us a lot of daily MMA news that we can go through and read. Like just today, Merab is saying that he's willing to wait a year or a year and a half to get his shot because he needs Aljo to come back and then he'll go and fight Sean O'Malley. Like, this is bantamweight headlines that we're talking about, and it gives us something to play with in the comments and to actually read. Otherwise, the sport just goes dead and quiet. This is a great time. If Sean O'Malley stays our champion, as it is with all new champions, I only hope for one thing, and that is stay active. Even with Aljo, I said that his personality was good, and after this fight, if he wins this fight, will he finally get our respect? He lost this fight, and he finally got my respect because of the way that he handled that loss. It was so classy. It was so classy that Aljo actually won me as a fan. And I am excited to see his next fight back. So Sean O'Malley being the champion has even given the ex-champion a leg up. This rising tide is going to raise all boats. And I hope that Sean O'Malley stays active and doesn't go on a victory lap for a year. Like he says he wants to fight in December. I hope he fights in December. If he doesn't fight in December, I hope he fights January. Stay active, Sean. Keep taking on new contenders. And his personality, you know what? If he keeps making like funny one-liners in the interviews, then that's fine. That's all we need. Like, I don't give a shit what he does in his personal life. You don't have to like him for that. You can like him because it's like Izzy. You can like him because he's a great fighter, and you know that he's going to give you funny moments on the microphone. Like, Izzy's funny moments are cringe moments, but they're still funny and fun to watch. Like, leave you frozen like Elsa. It's like, oh God, that's so cringe. But it's fun to watch. At least it gives you an emotion. And if Sean O'Malley can keep bringing us moments like on his recent press conference, said, oh, you lost on the judges' scorecards in the first round. And Sean just goes, yeah, well, what did they score the second? That's a great line. Like, okay, good. More of this, Sean. Like, Sean O'Malley's biggest problem really so far outside of his personal life is him at press conferences. I don't know why, but he doesn't seem to have a lot of confidence at press conferences. And maybe that's because it just isn't specifically his show, and he's just letting the show happen around him. And because he is a counter striker, even maybe in his head, he's looking for funny moments to jump in, and he just doesn't quite find it. And now as the press conferences go forward, with him being the champion, they are going to be his press conferences. So maybe we'll see more Sean O'Malley come out of Sean O'Malley. And hopefully this can be like Aljo, and he can win me over as a fan, and I can be excited to see him win before we get to the end of his championship run. Who knows? It's good to be back. It's good to be making videos. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Are you a Sean O'Malley fan? If so, why? Is it just the striking? Are you not a Sean O'Malley fan? Is there a little bit more that pisses you off about him than it does me? Let me know down in the comments. It's good to be back, guys. If you're enjoying these videos, consider clicking subscribe now that I'm done with the crazy traveling. We'll be making a lot more of these, and I will see you all in the next one.